Well, it's finally spring. It's been a long winter. The sun's out, temperatures are up, birds are singing, and I want to go outside and enjoy my bourbon. But I need somewhere nice to sit. So I figured, let's build some Adirondack chairs. So in this video, I'm going to go through how I built these Adirondack chairs based off the template from Rockler Woodworking. Now, I'm not a template and instruction kind of guy. I'm usually kind of get halfway through it, have a vague idea of what I want to do, and just kind of go for it. But I wanted to change that. I wanted to actually try to follow the template as it says. So if it says do this, make it this wide, do this, I was going to stick to it. Because it was kind of a good lesson for me to try to stick to something without deviating off course. Now I will admit, there was one deviation that the template did not include. My wife says I put lights in everything. It's not true. It's not true. Like all good woodworking projects, it starts at the big box store, right? One day I'll go to a real lumberyard, but not today. Today, we're buying pine. Because it's easy to use, it's cheap, and when you screw up, and let me tell you, I screw up, you can always buy more. The plans call for 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, and 1x4s. It's pretty easy to find straight 2x8s and 2x6s, but there's a lot of bananas in the 2x4 pile, so you'll have to pick through them. We'll leave the bananas for the framers. Now before I do anything, the templates that I got were cardboard, and I want to transfer them over to hardboard so that if I decide to build these again in the future, I can use these as router templates. Taking care to trace these as closely as I can, and then taking the time to mark off every pilot hole, every through hole, every screw hole, every alignment, you know, you get the point. With everything transferred to the hardboard, I'm going to take the templates over to the bandsaw and cut them out. Now this is a pretty old bandsaw. I have no idea how old it is, but it seems to be in pretty good condition, and I think it's going to do a pretty good job. And I broke it. So we'll just finish the job off with power tools. Now I'm not very good of a jigsaw, or at least I wasn't very good of a jigsaw, but after hours and hours of jigsawing out templates, I got pretty good. I give myself a solid A-. Step 1. Trace your templates onto 1¼ inch stock. But wait a second, I bought 2x material. That's 1.5 inches. Uh-oh. Now if you own a planer, this is an easy job. But I don't own a planer. But I do have a table saw. So I can set the fence for 1¼ inch and then run the board through vertically, taking shallow passes bit by bit, eventually cutting through the face of the board. Since I'm using a job site table saw with a 10-inch blade, I can cut through 2x6s with this method, but not 2x8s. There's still just a little bit of material left that I have to use a handsaw for. And with that, we've got 1¼ inch boards. Now just to do it 7 more times, because the instructions say so. Have you ever seen it snow 2 feet in 2 days? There's nothing like it. It's beautiful. It's terrifying. It's a ton of fun, and it's a ton of work. But for those 2 days, the world shuts down, and there's nothing else to do but to make a good cup of coffee and start working on your chairs. My focus for the day is to start transferring templates onto stock, and trying to cut out anything that has an angle cut or a long straight cut. Anything with a curve, we'll take care of it with the jigsaw later. Most of the pieces on this chair have some sort of taper and cut. Luckily, a few years ago I built a taper jig for my table saw. This way, I don't have to rely on a circular saw or a track saw to make long cuts on an angle. The back slats of this chair have a taper and cut on both sides, so a jig like this makes short work of it. I'd still be cutting back slats if it weren't for the jig. With all the straight cuts done, I can put my new jigsaw skills to use and cut out the rest of the curves. No matter how good of a jigsaw you are, if you cut the same piece 4 times, there's always going to be variations. But if you take the best piece you cut out and use it as a router template for the other 3, you can have 4 identical pieces. After a quick sand that touched them up, they're nearly perfect. Whew. All right. Well, this is it. This is every piece cut to size, and that took forever. For the keen-eyed viewers of you, all 20 of you, you may have noticed the background changes quite a bit as I go through and cut these different pieces. It goes from super snowy to bright and sunny, and that means 2 things. That means the weather here in Wisconsin has been wacky, and it also means this has taken quite a while for me to do this. I started this project New Year's Eve, and it is currently February 12th. So that's not to say that it takes a month and a half to make Adirondack chairs. It doesn't. What that means is, I'm just a regular dude working out of my garage. I don't have a dedicated shop. I work full-time. I'm a full-time dad of 2 kids, little guys, not kids that I can just send off and go play down the street. The point of this rant is that it's super easy to get discouraged working on something like this that takes so long, and you can only chip away at it, bit by bit over a period of months. And it's easy to lose track of what you're doing and kind of forget what you were up to. If you do a project like this, don't get discouraged. I got discouraged. I'm working my way through it. I'm halfway done. I see what I have in front of me as a success, but also a mountain of work. And, I hope I get to look back on this day right now, far in the future when I'm complete with this, and smile at it and laugh at it, be like, look at that sucker. He's tired and grumpy and ranting. I've got a lot of sanding to do. Well, let's get back to it. After literally hours and hours of sanding, it's time to finally start thinking about assembly. So I need to start drilling pilot holes and then countersinking them so the screws sit flush. Just as the monotony of sanding has ended, it's time to round over almost every edge with the palm router. This is where things start to get a little dicey, because if I screw up here, I'm starting again. On the underside of the armrest, I need somewhere to house the batteries and all the wiring to wire up the cup holder. Using a flute bit in a plunge router, I mortise out this chamber for the batteries to sit in. I think it's a mortise. Is that the right word? I don't know what I'm doing. Well, this is the point of no return. Drilling in from the side of a Forstner bit and then following up of a 1/4-inch bit, this lets the wiring connect from the battery to the switch to the cup holder and complete the circuit. Somehow I did it twice without screwing it up. I still don't know how. With all the stressful drilling and routing done, it's time to finally move on to staining. Since I'm using pine, and pine does weird stuff when you stain it dark, you have to use wood conditioner. The color I'm using is mahogany from General Finishes. This is a gel stain, which is completely unnecessary, but I had it sitting on the shelf, so I figured, might as well. Now it's time to finally start assembling these bad boys. And now for the final piece. Feels good. It went together pretty easy, probably because I followed the instructions. Who knew? Since I plan to keep these out all year, they need to be protected from the weather. So, my choice is spar urethane. Thinning it down 2 parts spar urethane to 1 part thinner lets you spray it through a paint sprayer and get a beautiful glassy finish on it. The downside is that you do have to give it a couple more coats than if you applied it with a brush. The upside, no brush marks. And now just to solder up a basic circuit interrupted by a switch, and we're good to go. I'm gonna sit in this one, see if this one's more comfy. Oh, yeah, this one's comfy too. Ooh. If you like this kind of stuff, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe. You know, I'm just a guy making cool stuff on YouTube. At least I think it's cool. Maybe it's not. I think it's cool. I need more bourbon.